You're welcome back. You're still on Sapphire Breakfast Show this moment. A bill seeking to establish a National Commission of Small Arms and Light Weapons charged with the responsibility to coordinate and combat proliferation of small arms and light weapons in Nigeria has passed second reading in the House of Representatives. The bill intends to control the provisions of the Economic Community of West African States Convention on Small Arms and Light Weapons. What significant role would this bill actually go in? We are talking to the improving the volatile security situation in the country, and we have in the studio Dr. Lionel Rawlins, Assistant Vice President, Security and Safety of the AUN, who will be looking into this critical issue. You're welcome on the program this morning.
Good morning. And Banwa.
Okay, from which region?
You don't know? The Laka.
Really?
Okay. All right.
I thought you would know that. The Laka people, I'm Laka, and we're the ones who own Jamaica.
Okay. And you've left Gembu down to Jamaica?
Well, my mother is from Gembo.
Okay,
my
and your father is from Jamaica. Interesting.
It makes me laugh.
It's a true Nigerian.
But I tend to wonder what the combination of his DNA will be, because he's actually the 36th state of the country. He's from the 36th state of the country. And he's also a national of many, nations. So you tend to wonder what the DNA, the combination of his DNA will be.
It's a good combination.
Good. You're welcome on the program this morning. Yes, we've seen the bill which is set to promote the removal of small arms from the society through the collection, storage, destruction, management, and stockpiling of small arms in Nigeria. Do you see the bill as a way to go?
Yes, it is. It's a help. It's a start. They have got to start somewhere to prevent this from going on. It's, as everybody knows, the proliferation of small arms and light weapons is what is pushing all of these violence, because everybody has a weapon. First, let me tell you listeners what a small arm and a light weapon is, because they might not know. Small arm is a handgun, like a 9mm, you shoot, bam, bam, bam. Even an AK-47 is considered a small arms. Light weapons is a little bit bigger. It's machine guns, so and so forth, and surface-to-air missiles. So anything that is used by one person is called small arms. A light weapon, you require 2, 3 or more people to operate. So we have a lot of these weapons in Nigeria, and there's nothing in place to stop them from coming in. All the bad boys, all the bad groups, all the militias and insurgents and terrorists, they all have these weapons. And so we have to find a way to stop it from happening. And that is what the government is trying to do.
But why now? Because when we begin to ask this question, we have the challenge of insecurity way before now that the bill is passing second reading. If we knew, when we look back at our borders, that is one major problem that we have, because these small arms and light weapons likely must have been using the porous borders that we have. Why now? That is my question.
Well, because it's so bad. It is so bad, and it's all consuming that it's overtaken the country. Look, there's 500 million illegal weapons in West Africa.
And 70% is in Nigeria.
70% is here. 350 million is here. Now, that is just a rough estimate. It could be more. There's some people who believe that there are more. Because if people have illegal weapons, they're not going to tell you. They have them buried in their backyard or stored in a building somewhere. So it could actually be more. And if you have all of these weapons, and you have all of these groups, all of these different entities and individuals who have these weapons, the government has got to do something to prevent it. But you ask a very good question. Why now? Well, it's gotten out of hand. How often do you read the papers or listen to news and you don't see 20 people were killed in this village, 30 people were killed? Nowhere else in the world do you hear and see those things. You might hear 4 people got killed here, 2 people got killed there, but here is 20, 30, 40, almost weekly. And the rest of the world is watching and listening and wondering, What is going on in Nigeria? Well, the weapons are here, and they come through the border, and they should have fixed the border a long time ago, instead of coming up with these readings and these different things. However, anything is better than nothing at all, and I support it.
All right, Dr. Lionel, let's speak to the obvious reality, which you've been trying to talk to, but based on explanation, you've been trying to a little bit give us a summary of what exactly the implication of having this volume of small and light weapons in the country means to our national security. Let's state it as it is. How much of these weapons is responsible for the current state of insecurity that we see that is spread all over the 36 states of the country? How much of it?
All. Every single one of those weapons is being used. Now, there might be one or two people who may have them in their homes for protection and don't say anything. They have them there. But the majority, 99.9%, are used illegally by kidnappers, the Fulani herdsmen, farmers conflict, religious conflict, tribalism. We not even start thinking about the guys in the Niger Delta. We haven't even spoken about drug pushers, the human trafficking. All of them are using these weapons. All of these weapons are being used to perpetuate the violence that is going on in Nigeria. And that is why I am almost positive some country in somewhere in the world probably went to the Nigerian government and said, look, you guys have to really clamp down on this proliferation of arms. Because the United Nations, they have their own people to do arm control and disarmament. And they are very concerned about the proliferation. And they keep hearing the word proliferation because it's a strong word, means the build-up. But when you use the word proliferate, it's a strong word. And it shows that there is a real need to address this issue. And they have, I am almost certain, contacted the Nigerian government, not just the Nigerian government, because it's all throughout West Africa. But Nigeria has the most, and is using it the most.
From your earlier analysis, you said we have well over about 300 million small and light weapons in the country. Going by analysis and looking at what the population is all about, if we're going to do an even distribution, it would appear that an individual would be go home with about 2 of such weapons, going by our population in terms of analysis. Let's speak to some certain obvious reality, which is the concern raised by the APC member from Borno, Mohammed Mongonu, who says he expressed great concern over the influx of small arms and dangerous weapons through ports and porous borders, stressed the need to put necessary measures in place to end the illicit trade. And I want to, drag your mind back a little bit, some months back, where the presidency did come out to speak about withdrawing guns in the country. That is virtually everywhere, and then the question of licenses, played out, and individuals were kind of saying, how do we guarantee our safety? Now it is drawn a thin line between individuals who want to own a gun for their safety and individuals who want to own a gun to perpetrate evil. How do we address this, looking at currently the challenges that Nigeria is going through?
Well, if you want to talk about licensing individuals, I am for licensing responsible individuals to be able to have a weapon in the house. Because everyone should be able to defend themselves against an intruder. A man can break into your house, or men, they don't come individually. It's a group of men who will break into your house, 5 of them. And if you have a wife, they could rape you, tie you up, rape your wife in front of you, rob you, and all you can do is sit and pray and bawl and beg and plead. But if you had a gun, you would have been able to defend yourself, because they would not have expected you to have a gun. And the first round, the first shot you fire, all of them would have been running, because they don't know how many guns, how many, is it an automatic, they don't know. Now, this is just for the individuals who are responsible. You can't just give it to anybody and everybody. The reason I am for the individuals being licensed to have a gun is because the bad boys are not going to give their guns up. The bad boys are already bad, and they know their job is to carry weapons and rob people. They will rob you. They will know that you have no guns in your house because the government has taken them away. So they can come into your house without any kind of impunity and just dismember your whole family in just a few short hours. And it has happened all over. I mean, I can tell you, people have told me, people coming to their house, raped their daughters in front of them, and there's nothing they can do, stole the money and left, and they're just the same way they come in, the same way they've left. But if they knew that you had a gun. Now, we have to make sure that people go through a background check as well. Because if you don't, then you'll be giving the guns to all kind of crazy people. In the United States, all of the people who have shot people and killed people in schools and different places, 95 or 96% of them, and you can Google it, had psychological problems. Sure. So we have to do something to make sure you don't give guns or put guns into the hands of people who have, you know, psychiatric and psychological problems.
In stressing the urgent need to halt the proliferation of small arms in Nigeria, as it is speculated today, what synergy would you advocate for state actors to put in check with the other African countries that already have the commission in mopping up all of the small arms and light weapons we have in circulation?
Good question. I will put it this way. If you got stabbed or you got shot with a gun, right, the first thing the first responders will do, or supposed to do, is stop the bleeding. First thing, you pull out the knife where you got stabbed, and you must stop the bleeding. If you don't stop the bleeding, you'll bleed to death. So we stop the bleeding and wait for medical expertise to come there, because they're the experts. So whoever is there, the first responders, if you're listening, people, stop the bleeding. You protect the wound and treat for shock. So I'm going to use the same analogy with the border. The border is where the bleeding is taking place. It's bleeding. Weapons are going out, weapons are coming in. Drugs are going out, drugs are coming in. Bad boys come and do the bad things. They run to Chad and Cameroon or Nigeria, wherever they go, and they come back and do crime. So the bleeding is at the border. Stop the bleeding at the border. Fix it. Once you do that, then you come in and you clean up all the mess with all the illegal weapons. And let me make it a little clearer. If they stopped 100 guns from coming in, they captured 100 men, each of them had a gun. That is 100 guns that you captured coming in, or you took them off the street. They're illegal. But 300 came in at the same time. 1 from 3 is 2. You still have 200 guns. If you captured 100 guns that were illegal, but 300 came in through the border, you're not doing anything. You still have 200. So stop the bleeding at the border, fix the borders, and then we will fix what's happening in Nigeria, and work with the other countries.
The demand for establishing a commission, therefore, without addressing where the problem lies, is kind of counterproductive to the effort towards, you know, cleaning Nigeria from, you know, illegal weapons that is, you know, virtually everywhere, isn't it?
Yes, and you know that there's a lot of talking that goes on.
We're going to backtrack a little bit, because earlier I asked you a question on the thin line between individuals who own weapons for the sake of safety and individuals who own weapons to perpetrate evil. We have individuals who own weapons that are not even licensed, and they tell you that it's for self-defense. And that's the reason why they've owned weapons to protect themselves. All of these are things that are playing out in our society today as it is. But the question here is, How come the individual feel the need for them to start protecting themselves instead of depending on the state? Because the absence of the state being able to protect them is responsible largely for the proliferation of small and light weapons that we're speaking to. And this on its own is an obvious reality that we need to address, isn't it? We'll come back from the break and we have you, speak about this with us on the program today.
Absolutely.
All right, you're watching Safia Breakfast Show, and we have Dr. Lionel Rawlins, Assistant Vice President, Security and Safety at the American University of Nigeria. Speaking of moves by the legislator to, promulgate a commission that would check the excesses of arms proliferation in Nigeria. Is it a plus or a minus? Well, it's a debate that is still ongoing and will continue after the break. So do join us.
Pain, fever, headaches. Life should be lived to the fullest. Trust Emzor paracetamol to give you fast relief and get back to enjoying life. Brilliant go! Emzor paracetamol makes you feel better.
Welcome back. You're watching Safia Breakfast Show this morning. Our focus is on the ongoing effort to control the proliferation of arms and light weapons in the country. Our guest on this segment is Dr. Lionel Rawlins, the Assistant Vice President, Security and Safety of the American University of Nigeria here in Yola. Before the break, earlier they talk about the worrisome situation where we see people owning small arms and light weapons that are not licensed. We have villages that are also having some of these weapons, and the only key thing or the thin line they will begin to say is we're holding on to these things because of our security. How do we begin to address all of those things when the government is right there and also looking into the crisis we're faced with?
Well, I will address it in two ways. If you have a weapon in your house and it's not licensed, or you are not licensed to have that weapon, you're breaking the law. It is illegal. And if you are caught by the police, then you will have a problem, because you're going to either get arrested or go to court and have to explain why you have it. So if you do have an illegally acquired weapon for protection and self-defense, even though we understand that you are defending yourself, it is illegal and is against the law. On the other hand, what drives people to obtain illegal weapons and to have them in their homes, or some people even carry them in their pockets, carry a weapon in their cars. When people do that, it is because people feel that the government has not adequately protected them, or they don't believe the government is capable of protecting them. So they will rather protect themselves. Some people, there's an old saying, I would rather be carried by 6 men than to be tried. Oh no, I would rather be tried by 12 men than to be carried by 6. Meaning, in the United States, there are 12 men in a jury, and there are 6 men who will bear your coffin. You would rather be tried by 12 men than have 6 men carry your coffin with you in there. So people have this mentality. It's all over the world. If the government can't protect me, I will protect myself.
Well, isn't this the obvious reality that is responsible for the large influx of small and light weapons in the country? Because we know that, one, individuals are pretty much aware that what the borders are porous. There's no security at the borders. So if they are aware of this and they know, on the other hand, that the state cannot guarantee their safety, don't you think it's largely responsible for what we are saying?
Well, the government is responsible for everybody's safety and security and your welfare. That's the #1 purpose of government, to protect you, the citizen. Now, when people resort to those kind of tactics of bringing in weapons and purchasing weapons illegally, it is because they have lost confidence in the ability of the government to protect them. Now, The problem here, right now, we are facing didn't just originate with this government. This goes back several governments ago, because this just keep going and going and going until we're at this point where now the current government is scratching its head trying to figure out how can we fix this. Well, it started when they had the Civil War. When the Civil War ended, all these weapons went into hiding, and then no one knew where they were. And then let's fast forward to recently, weapons are now coming from Libya, Mali, Turkey, Yemen, all of these places coming into Nigeria. They're also coming from Cote d'Ivoire and all these other places. All throughout Africa, weapons are coming in here. And they're coming here to Nigeria because not only is Nigeria a final destination, but it is also a transnational gateway for these weapons. A lot of these weapons come to Nigeria to go elsewhere in other parts of the world. And many of them stay here because it is a final destination for...
I recall when a ship landing was, arrested in Lagos with huge container load of weapons, and they said it's not meant for Nigeria. It was on transit to other nations. These are obvious realities that we're dealing with. But in addressing the problem, do you think the government is actually taking the right approach? What you consider most important, most critical step in nibbling this particular problem to the bud?
I think this second reading and what they're trying to do in your Congress, in your government, it's okay. It's better than nothing. Anything is better than nothing at all, because nothing was being done. What they need to do, though, if I were advising them, I would increase your customs, pay them well, put them on the border. You know how big your border is? You have over 4,910 kilometers, almost 5,000 kilometers, stretching all the way down to the Gulf of Guinea. And you only have like less than 100 proper border crossing. People create their own border crossing. I would say increase your customs, increase immigration, put them out there on the borders and let them protect the borders. Use things like drones, use things like sound detectors, use technology to stop all of that. Plug it, stop it, fix it. And then when you fix it there, then you fix the problem inside the country. You can't just start fixing it from inside out. Go from outside in. Go to the root of the problem, I'm trying to say.
Yeah, exactly, that's the more reason why I asked. Is the government taking the right approach? Because it appears we know where the problem is. The borders are porous.
Maybe they don't know. Maybe they don't think that is the root of the problem.
We've talked about this time and time again. We've talked about how weapons were slipping in from, Libya and the rest coming into the country. Analysis have been made towards this. We talk about Boko Haram activity, how they're getting, supplies. All of these have been on the table. It appears it's just more of a political comments rather than statement that is geared towards addressing the problem.
You need a political will to end it, to fix it. It's just like you said, people talk and they talk and they talk. Whenever they, it's like if 20 people get shot up today in a village, somebody go on TV and they make these big speeches and lofty promises. This must end, this must stop, we cannot do this, we cannot accept that. But they don't do anything. 2 days later, in another village elsewhere, the same thing happens. All we do is talk and talk. It's about time that action is taken.
In this regard, okay, sorry, I wanted to say briefly, should we say the police also need to be re-equipped effectively so that we'll have a better society, a sane society, where common criminalities should be avoided?
Absolutely. The police need to be equipped, given the proper resources, and it's a lot of things other than just giving them the equipment. The welfare of the police and they work hard, and people don't. I know people have the problems with the police and the military and the customs, immigration. You need to pay these guys a decent wage, a decent salary. Give them the morale, build up their morale that they can go out and do their job. Give them the equipment, send them away to train. the customs, immigration, the police. You know, most countries will train them for free. The United Nations will do all of that. Most countries will do all of these free training for them. All they have to do is fly them there and then bring them back and put these people to work. If you do these things, it shows that there's a strong desire, a political will to put all of this to an end. If there is no political will, then we are in trouble.
Is Nigeria currently sitting on a ticking time bomb, on a keg of gunpowder, if this is not addressed?
Eventually it will.
Okay.
I will say eventually it will. It's not there yet, but it'll get there if they don't fix it.
Okay. Dr. Lionel Rawlins, always a pleasure to have you, talk on matters of security as it concerns us as a people. Thank you so very much once again.
Where's Yetunde?
Yetunde is backstage.
Okay. I'm very disappointed.
You owe me one, definitely.
2.
Okay, you owe me 2 now. But that has been Dr. Lionel Rawlins, Assistant Vice President, Security and Safety at the American University of Nigeria. He talked on the question of armed proliferation that is plaguing Nigeria and what we need to do as a nation to address the problem. If not, we are already sitting on a keg of gunpowder. I'll take a break and then we'll come back with other issues or other topics to be looked at on the program today.